Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, it should be live on YouTube as well. All right, wonderful. So, excuse me. Yeah, it should be what? Live on YouTube. Hang on one second. Let me mute everything. All right, wonderful. So, okay. So what I'm going to do today is go over the markets that we trade in our trading room. First of all, my name is Daniel Rowe. For those of you that are just joining us for the first time, we run a trading room live 5 days a week, about 3.5 hours every morning. And I do trade live. So while I am showing this disclaimer here, I may show some live trades that I took today and yesterday, but they are not simulated trades, they're live trades. And I'm not going to be showing any kind of simulated trades at all. So obviously don't trade with money that you cannot afford to lose. It is incredibly difficult to make money trading, so be aware of the risk. All right, let me exit out of here. So let's do this. We'll start with the 6E because I am just getting into a short here. We set this up in the room today, this swing high. I think Josh took it, the guy that helps me in the room, also our programmer, and he got out at the low here. So I'm getting into the retracement swing high. So this is likely maybe it's a fourth wave high here or a wave 2 high. And we've got a nice completed, what looks to be a completed correction. So my stop is 8 ticks just behind the swing high. And at that high today, we had just a massive divergence. It's a triple divergence. It's volume divergence and a big buying climax, which is also very high volume per range, indicating that we had a ton of supply step into the market right there. And it was also this channel, the top of this channel. So low to low, back to the lower high here, and we've made it up and hit that. Also the top of the median line set, so to the upper median line as well, and then we have a pretty clear 5-wave move up out of the low here. So it's either a 1, 2, 3 or an A, B, C. I'm shooting for the ABC, and we now finally have a massive extreme churn bar, very high volume per range at the high, and now it's looking like we have our 1, 2 or A, B. We'll see. So I'm short 2 and I'm wanting to hold, definitely holding over the weekend, and my stop is just behind it, just behind the high there. You see where I got in with the down sloping median line and at this perfect symmetrical ABC up here, what appears to be an ABC up. So we'll see how that one works out. I'll go over the higher time frames here in a moment. This was the major, well, one of the major trades that I took today also was long gold. I've been long gold for the past couple of days out of that low that we made. We were talking about that last Friday, that we would be making potentially a low in there, and I went ahead and bought that and then held, got out of one yesterday, got into the low yesterday, and finally exited in gold. I'll show you that in a second, but here at the low here in crude, it was a pretty nice little setup, and volume divergence on the 2-minute at the low where I got in. Right here with a 6-tick stop. So, and then finally traded up to the high here, which this last little push up was a symmetrical move as well. It did move higher, but anyway, where I got out was a pretty safe place to exit right here at the downsloping upper median line here, and the trend line from those same highs on the tick chart. We actually came back to the trend line, so I got out where all of that was coming together there, and we had a pretty massive churn bar at this high on the 1 minute. So I think I've made 1,270, 2,900 this week. So I had a pretty decent week. And I tried to buy the low here in gold, and I got in. See, I exited my long here out of the report, and then bought this low just a little bit too early. But you can see where we did make the low. It's a nice little, it's kind of a perfect area for that swing low. Right to the bottom of the channel, broke through the bottom of the channel a little bit, right into the median line. And then also this little downsloping channel. It all kind of came together right there, and it's turning up out of that. It's not turning up very strong though, so it's looking like we might do a lower high, and that would coincide pretty well with what we're seeing on the. This is why I got out of my trade here. I bought this low. And this is what we're going to go over when we start going over the higher time frames. So every Friday, what we do is we go over the higher time frames, get everything kind of set up for next week, try to figure out what the likely move will be next week. And last week we were talking about this area. I think we were right in here saying that, you know, that might be the low, but we have the really perfect area, just these two massive swings, connecting those and intersecting with a 78.6 retracement there. So when we came down and got into that low, I went ahead and bought about two. I got out of one pretty early, and then I basically didn't even count that as a 2 contract trade. But anyway, held through the retracement here and then bought one at the low before the low yesterday, and then got out of that one, I think it was yesterday afternoon, and then finally closed it out when we came up into this area here. It's actually just before we came into that area on the news report this morning, the CPI. All right, so it's looking like this is really more than likely an well, it's probably a WXY, but for all intents and purposes, it's a 3-wave looking move, and that would be a correction. So we're in a pretty strong down move, and since we're on gold now, let's go ahead and jump to the weekly and daily charts. MJ is asking, do I trade Sunday nights? Yeah. I mean, if it's setting up, when we get to Euro, what we were talking about last Friday was gapping up Sunday night into that area. And that was the short that I wanted to take, but I don't know what I was doing. I was busy doing something else, and I missed the open Sunday night. Otherwise, I would have shorted it. And then, you know, we didn't get the correction until like 1:30 in the morning. So if I miss anybody's question, just post it again or see if Clint can take care of you here. Yeah, okay. Here we go. All right, cool. So let's go to the weekly and the daily charts in gold, and then we'll go to the euro. So we were talking about this past couple of weeks, that the high that we had turned down out of was this perfect area here. It was the most obvious of trend lines coming straight down, and then the midline of this upsloping channel right there, and then the median line of this little less obvious channel. And they're all intersecting perfectly right there. And we have turned down incredibly strongly out of that swing high. All right, so last week we were, right in here saying that, well, we do have an area a little bit lower here, just connecting these two trend lines together. But we were right 5, it was the 5th, so we had closed on this bar, that yellow bar. That's a churn bar. So we did have some demand coming in Friday off of this area, and it did push back up Sunday night. Actually, Sunday night is not showing here. Yeah, this is a daily chart. Okay, so Monday we did move back above Friday's high, and then we came straight down for 2 days. And then once we hit this low, that's where we set up for the long, which was right here on double divergence on the 240-minute tick chart, and a big selling climax churn bar on the hourly chart into that low. And then we overthrew that trend line by a little bit. Luckily, I had taken my first attempt at it, I think 2 attempts at it in a sim account. And then my 3rd attempt was in my live account because I couldn't log into the brokerage for some reason. My account connections got completely wiped out somehow in Ninja. So anyway, I managed to get the low and then hold through this pullback. That was a pretty frightening pullback. I mean, I was up, I think, over 100 something ticks here, or almost 100 ticks, and then had to hold through what was almost an 80% retracement. But luckily, it did move up into that C wave. I was thinking it was going to go up into a 3rd wave, but then when I, came to the screens this morning, it was right in here. So not so much looking like a 3rd wave. I was thinking maybe it would get vertical today, but out of that report this morning, it just moved right into the area. Let me delete. This stuff is looking a little bit weird here. Right into this area here. This is the tightest channel that we have here. So with that, it's looking to me like we have a 1, 2, 3 into that low. It's kind of difficult looking a little bit, but it's looking like an impulse move at the downside, and this looks like a 4th wave high to me. I was thinking maybe, I was getting lucky on the end of a big 2nd wave correction here, and I would be getting 300, 400, 500 ticks out of this move. I was thinking by the end of the week, by the end of today, but that just hasn't happened. I ended up making some pretty good money on it, but not what I was really expecting. And then we have a major spike in the relative volume into that high on the 240. So being that it was a report into that high and then moving down out of it makes me think that the high is in. But when we look at it on the smaller time frames, it's looking to me like this is a correction, like it's a double 3. ABC, X, ABC. So far, it's looking like we're probably going to get one more swing high in gold. I'm second guessing that quite a bit because of the move out of this low. It's not acting like it tends to act when it's put in a corrective low, and it's going to keep moving higher. To give you an example of what that typically looks like, it typically looks like this, like we see in NASDAQ on the 20-minute. This is the type of move out of a corrective low that you would expect if we're going to new highs. And gold is really not looking like that at all, so we'll see what happens. But this was a pretty nice low. I actually had that on my second attempt, but then I got scared out right in here a little bit early. I think I ended up clearing like $150 or something yesterday, or a couple of days ago. So anyway, all right, let's get back to gold. So to wrap up gold, I'm thinking this is not a 1, 2, 1, 2, but it's what I have labeled here, which is an A, B, C. Now, it might be going into a triangle. That's definitely a possibility. But when we get down to this, if and when we get down to this trend line here, and let me mark that price for you. It's looking like about 1160, 1163 or so by the time we get there, which might happen next week or the week after. But it's looking like we're going into another down move. We're going to look at this from the high down to this low, because if it does do a D wave of a triangle, that would be in 3 waves. And I'm kind of thinking that's likely because this looks like an ABC down to me, or at least a double 3, but it looks very much like a 3-wave move and not a 5-wave impulsive move. Okay, and this also does. So we have 3 up, 3 down, 3 up. That's how all triangles start off. Correction, 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 and then the final E wave. And that could bring us all the way back to that same downtrend line there. All right, so to look at that last move down from the high that I have marked here at C, if we do get that next move down, 5 is typically equal to wave 1. So that could bring us down into this area here. So right around 1200, maybe a little bit lower. For what I'm thinking would be the end of an A wave down. And then we could get a pretty sizable retracement back up, okay? If I wasn't long into that high, I likely would have shorted it out of that high because it did come into some areas there. But you know, I didn't want to be long and then get out of it and short and end up losing on that short and giving back what I had made on the long, you know, only to see it keep going and stop me out of trying to reverse. So I just let it pass me by and then took the long in crude, and now of course I'm short the 6E. So that's what I'm seeing in gold. Let's go on to the 6E here. It looks like I am potentially about to get stopped out here. It came pretty close to be a lower high. But it's still on the table. I mean, it's tracing out a channel here so far, and it's kind of riding the top of that channel. So I've got my stop where it needs to be. It's behind the high. If this is going to maintain a lower high, that's where it needs to be, and that's a 8-tick stop. So it's definitely worth it. Definitely worth the risk to be able to potentially make, let's see, how many ticks? At least down into here. Let's see where that channel would be. Oh, at least to here. That's not very much, 36, but likely if it's, only an A, B, C rather than what I think it is, a 1, 2, then we'll likely make it on down into here. So 40, 50 ticks for an 8-tick stop is worth it for sure. So I'd say it's about 5 times what I'm risking. The potential earnings on the trade would be somewhere around 5 or greater times what I'm risking. So that's definitely worth it. All right, let's go to the higher time frames here. So this is what we were talking about on Friday, that we had a nice 5-wave move up right into the top of the channel, all of these areas here, and we had volume divergence. We had pretty strong divergence in the momentum, and we were just missing a little bit of room to the top of this channel here. And this is the way the markets work. This is market geometry. You see this over and over and over, and it just missed the top of that channel by about 3 ticks, I think. And we have our last 5-wave move up here. So when we were going over this, we were right there. And I was talking about wanting to make it to that area. And if we did, and if we gapped up on Sunday night, I would likely attempt that with a small stop, trying to trade back below this low here. Okay, well, it did. It gapped up Sunday night right into that high, and then it shot straight down. That little correction there happened at, I think, about 1:30 in the morning. So that was off the table, and then it came basically straight down. And now we found support in here, and then we've turned up in what looks like an ABC, but of course it could be a 1, 2, 3, and we could be doing a deeper correction, or we could even be going back and breaking this high. But as far as I can tell, this is still looking like a correction to me until we break out of the top of this channel. And of course, by then it's too late, and I'm not trading long here expecting that. Until we break out of the top of that channel, I'm not convinced that this is the final swing low here. I'm thinking that we have a pretty good chance of making it down one more time. Maybe not all the way to the bottom of this channel like we had been using on the weekly. You see how perfect this is? Where did this low come in? Big channel, right? And then we get the triangle here. So this is looking like 1, 2, 3, triangle 4. So either this is 5 or this is a big 4th of the 5th, and we're going to go down to below this low or near that low for one more big push to the downside. So this is what I was kind of debating last Friday, whether this was the final low and we would be breaking up and out of this channel to keep moving higher, or if we're going to come back down. And so far we've put in that high right where we needed to do it, right at the top of this channel. And that swing high on Friday was a churn bar, so it was very high volume per range, indicating that we did have some supply coming into the market right there. And then we gapped up Sunday night right into it, and we've been coming straight down. So if we can maintain this high today and then head lower to below this low, I'll be a little more relaxed about thinking that we're going to be coming back down to break out of the bottom of this channel and head lower down to near this low or through it. I'm just looking at the hourly chart now. At the high, see, we've got volume divergence here now. It's not quite breaking the swing high that we had today out of that report, but we've definitely got a churn bar for this last attempt at moving higher. We've definitely found resistance, and that's looking pretty good for maintaining that high and coming lower, maintaining a lower high. Okay, there we go. So this is the kind of erratic action right at the close. We've got just a few seconds left here, 30 seconds left. So hopefully we'll stay below that high, and then I'll be good when it reopens on Monday. Hopefully it'll gap lower. We'll see. All right, let's go on to, let's set up crude. Okay, it did make one final high, but it's heading down now. This low that we had, what was that, Wednesday, I think, or Thursday. No, that was, yeah, so Thursday night. And then Friday, we were talking about, since we had 5 waves up here, that we were probably moving higher, that we would have some kind of a correction back down. Well, this correction back down was picture perfect, except for the fact that we didn't really have any upsloping areas there. Josh had bought that, I think, and then just didn't hold it. So it was a perfect entry, but I think he just kind of got scared out of it. And then it has another 5-wave move up here. And then what appears to be an ABC that I bought the low of, that is pulled right back to the trend line that we have broken up and out of here. Okay, so this little ABC down was, again, just perfect. But we didn't have that upsloping channel, or any kind of upsloping area other than I think we had a midline or something. We'll go over that in a second. But the downtrend line that we have here, which is actually pretty gorgeous looking on the tick charts, this last push down traces out a really perfect channel. But this one we have broken up and out of. We pulled back to it here, made a new high, and then we have this nice correction back down into it, right where that midline intersects it. And that's just, market geometry 101 there. So it's a kind of a kiss goodbye setup here where I bought. And the only issue is now that it is finding some resistance here. So I was thinking that, by the time we held the webinar today, that we would probably be back above the high. Well, that obviously hasn't happened, and we hit all of that resistance right where I exited. And now we're starting to turn back down. So it's looking like we may get one more push down. What I'm kind of thinking is that this could be a completed correction back up into this high. So let's see what that's looking like here. This is the daily and the weekly chart. This is the area that we found support on at the low that we've been pushing up out of. And we've been counting this as the end of the big correction out of the low here. I'm thinking we need to make one more low. I've been saying that for weeks and weeks now. But it's really looking like a pretty serious swing low here that might result in one more swing high. Typically, you make it back to the previous fourth wave of one lesser degree up near the end of it, and that would be up in here. So to make it back to, 58 or so, maybe even up as high as 60 is still not out of the question. We just kind of need to see what's going to happen in here with this swing high that we've had today. If we're going to continue higher than what you would expect, would that be that this is a 1, 2, maybe that's just a 3, and this could be a small little wave 4, and then wave 5 up in here. Let me see something here. So I know what all the big Elliott wave guys would be thinking. They would likely be thinking that this is a big wave 1 down, 2 back up, and this is a 1. And now they're looking for wave 2 back up. So that's possible. I'm kind of thinking this is a really major low and that we're going to be heading much higher. So what I'm getting at is if this does push up into a new high, then that is likely going to be our A wave up. And then we could get a big B wave that even comes back below the low, or it might stop anywhere in here. But if it's going to do a zigzag, it'll probably be a shallow correction, and then our C wave for wave 2. So the next setup for me will likely be looking for this. I'm talking about the next big setup, the next swing trade that I'll do. Will likely be looking for what I'll be thinking is a B wave low, because it might actually be a wave 2 low. So this could be doing a 1 and a 2. So I'll be looking for that low, regardless of what I speculate that it's going to be a B or a 2. It'll probably set up as a perfect looking correction either way. So I would like to see it make one more high, and then depending on the move out of that high, we'll likely be able to have some nice day trades to the downside here next week. All right, but the big picture is that we're still in a big impulse move on the weekly to the downside, and we've got plenty of room for the move down. So coming back down near the previous low at, I think it was 26.05. Coming back down near that low is not out of the question. I know, people say that they don't make a profit below 40 or something like that. But obviously we've come down pretty low a couple of times in the past. Well, here we came down to 33 and then 26. So if we can make one more good low, that is likely going to be the buying opportunity of the next decade. You know, something like USO, maybe some longer term options. If we get that move, that's something I'll definitely be doing in an equities account. All right, so that's crude. Let's move on to what do we have left? NASDAQ and gold, right? Let's go to NASDAQ. So we've had one more correction here, one more big corrective swing low, and we were expecting a final impulse move to the upside, and I think we're well into that now. I think wave 3 will get us up into 57.10, maybe a little higher. And what I'm thinking is, let me show you, that we are potentially about to be making a major top. I know the ES isn't quite looking the same as the NASDAQ, but you can see in the NASDAQ, it's just a huge amount of divergence here as we're kind of getting that rounded look now on the 240-minute chart. But what we have here is what appears to be a complete section, a complete impulse move to the upside. So it is definitely looking like it is completing. You've got a pretty obvious set of 5 waves to the upside. This is the Trump election low, and then obviously some erratic behavior in the overnight here on Sunday night. But after it makes that higher low, after the crazy mess that we had, you have a pretty clear 5-wave move to the upside here for wave 1. All right, so I'm counting the actual low Sunday night as the end of it. And then it is, you know, it's lining up perfectly here. 5 is equal to 1, and 1 through 3, 5 is equal to 38.2 of 1 through 3. All right, if I drag it down actually to the lowest low, that's at 5,700 perfectly. So I'm thinking we're going to throw over this a little bit and probably make it up to about 57.15 or 20 and get a nice kind of a last climactic type of action, throwing over the channel that we have here, which we've been rejecting off of. So that's the 2 to 4 channel line. Let me see if I've got that connected right here. It's a little bit off. I'll do a parallel to that swing high right there. All right, and that's the one that we've been rejecting off of here and here. And I think we'll make it at least back to that. That's really not that much higher. That's at 5,700 even. But then the trend line from high to high here on the 240-minute chart, that's coming in about 57.17. Okay, and if we're going to have room to make another set of 5 waves, which we would need to do, we need enough room to be able to do that. So I'm thinking this 3rd wave will probably hit here and reject, and that's where a lot of people will no doubt unload their long positions. And then we'll have that kind of sideways to down correction, and then the final pop up into that 57.17, maybe 57.20. And then I think we'll have a pretty significant swing high there. And by that time, the ES will be breaking out to new highs as well. Okay, so that's what I'm thinking for the NASDAQ. It's looking like a complete move to the upside out of this low. So out of that high, we should get some kind of a correction similar to this right here. It might even be a really, really major top, but I'm thinking very likely something along the order of magnitude of this right here, out of this high. And that would line up well with coming back into the previous corrective low. So to make it back down into this area would be pretty likely after making such a massive move to the upside and having such really nice ratios here, swing relationships. So let's look at the weekly and the daily. That's the 1440 minute. Where's my weekly? Yeah, so excuse me, I'm thinking that the high that we're making is going to be that third wave high. So this is the move we're talking about completing. This is the 5-wave move to the upside. You see? And then that correction like so, like we had here for this wave 2. And that would probably bring us maybe not all the way back to the wave 4, but that's typically what we do is, we come back, the 4th wave tends to end near the end of the previous 4th wave of one lesser degree. That's a guideline. And it's looking like that's what's happening here. So on a larger scale, this would be, excuse me, it counts differently on the NASDAQ than it does on the ES, but it looks like 1, 2, and that's 3 and 4, and then we'll be completing 5, likely up much higher, maybe somewhere up in here. I'm not going to worry about trying to set that up. That's pure speculation. But the fact that we're up at the top of this big channel here, we're actually throwing it over a little bit, and I'm being lenient here. I mean, I'm not connecting to the big wicks here. I'm not connecting to that big wick there. You see, I'm connecting to the low before the big wick. I'm basically connecting to the lowest low of the weekly bar that closes the lowest for wave 2. And that is giving me the top of this channel coming in right here where we're overthrowing. And that is bound to put in some kind of very serious swing high. And you can see what's happening here in the weekly bars. We've got decreasing range. We've got big reversal bar up here. Let me put the volume on this just to show you what it's doing. The volume is actually decreasing into this high. I mean, obviously, you wouldn't want to be buying the market here, right? Obviously, the public is, but knowing what you guys hopefully know, you wouldn't want to be buying equities at the top of a channel that's lasted for over 2 years. To buy on a correction in here, yeah, buy on a correction in here, of course, but you're not going to be buying at the top of a channel. So volume is drying up, the ranges are narrowing. So we have definitely hit some resistance in here. And the move down and out of that high is probably going to be pretty sharp and cause a little bit of panic, but I don't think it's going to be the big one. I think we're just going to come back maybe to the midline here, maybe to the end of this previous 4th wave. And I think that is going to be the next big buying opportunity where you could, likely hold some stocks for several weeks or so, a few weeks anyway. All right, so that is the NASDAQ. Okay, this is the trend line that we had last Friday. From high to high, you can see this one is actually being respected pretty well. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 hits on that. And now we've made it up to it again, and we're throwing it over. So we are throwing it over right into that channel. So that channel on the weekly, we're throwing it over on the weekly a little bit. But when you put it on the daily chart, I'm sorry, this is a little bit smaller channel. All right, so that's what I wanted to show you. We're coming into a multiple of channels here. Is that the same one? Let me. Yeah, this is the smaller one. This is connected from this low to here. It's about the same channel really, but this one's a little bit smaller. For all intents and purposes, they both line up pretty well. So if we can make one more swing high, I think we'll have it, and then we'll likely focus on NASDAQ a little bit more once it starts getting that move to the downside, because once it starts that sell-off, you're going to get some pretty fast moves to the downside. And that's where volatility is going to pick up. I think the VIX is at, what is the VIX at, Brad? It's like, it's all-time low, isn't it? Any of you guys have a chart of the VIX? I'm not going to worry about bringing it up, but I think the VIX is still at all-time lows. So we're bound for a top in here pretty soon. And once we start turning down, that volatility is going to pick up dramatically. Options are going to get pretty expensive, and we should get some incredibly fast moves to the downside. And that's where day trading the US equities will make you a lot of money. When, well, it also blow your account if you don't know what you're doing, but when the volatility picks up like that, you can get some pretty serious intraday moves. All right, so what do we have left? Gold. I think we touched on gold. All right, gold has actually turned down here into the close. So it's looking like we're not going to make that new high. You see what we have here? It tried to move higher into the close, but you get this final little buying climax there on the 5-minute. It's a high density climax, so it's very high volume per range as well, meaning that even though it's being bought up, you're buying into some serious resistance, which is keeping it from moving much higher. And then once it takes out that high, it double topped. Once it hit that high, then you have the supply coming in there on the churn bar. Very narrower range than the previous bar, but still very high volume. And then it rolls down. So that's looking like a corrective swing high there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so we're likely going to be moving much lower. All right, well, that's making this swing high look more and more like a C wave. So if that's the case, we did go over gold already. If that's the case, then it's going to set up like I'm talking about with the next move to the downside here being the 5th wave down. So that will actually more than likely be what happens here. NASDAQ closed higher. This is a pretty nice swing low today, right back into yesterday's high. Big selling climax followed by a churn bar. Stops on a dime and then turns up. It's also right back into the volume weighted average price there. I just want to see what the euro did. Okay. Yeah. It may or may not work out, but I think it's definitely worth the risk there. And we did end on a churn bar into the high. Bullish, bearish divergence slightly, just a very little divergence signal there. And then a little buying climax on the tick chart. And we have turned back down on increasing volume on the 5 minute. So it's a pretty good sign that we put in a swing high, and that's about a 95% retracement. So we'll see what happens on Sunday night. It looks really good on the 20 minute though. Look at this. A huge churn bar on the 20 minute at that high. And it's still maintaining the lower high. Yeah, I think we're going to be good. You see the momentum is basically just heading back to the mean. So this was an incredible amount of momentum here. On the 5 minute, I think we got to 6 standard deviations. So that was out of that report. And then we basically just went sideways for so long here into what I'm thinking is an ending diagonal with the throw over for the 5th wave. So that's looking pretty good. All right. I think we're done here. And then crude oil, yeah. I want to see it make a new high, but we may have to pull back down one more time before that happens. So we'll set that up on Monday. Let me see. Right, yeah, we also had the trend line there. That was another reason. That was like the main upsloping reason for the trade that I took today at that low. This trade, and I got 8.67 R on that trade. So that is pretty phenomenal. And the only way that I'm able to do trades like that, I mean, they don't all turn out like that, obviously. I don't always make money. Actually, just bouncing back from a drawdown, but not because of the system, because I was making mistakes and adding to losing positions. But because we're able to get in at these confluence of areas in the market geometry and then confirm all of that with the volume and the divergence, we're able to get in with pretty small stops usually, and then end up getting these, really nice moves where we're making many more times the amount of risk that we're putting on the trade. So this is just a perfect example of that. I was wanting to hold to new highs, but I'd rather be out of this over the weekend. I really don't like holding over the weekend, but I was thinking this was a really nice looking setup. It's just moved a little bit further than I would have liked it to. It's kind of looking a little awkward at this point with the size of that retracement, but at any rate, I'm willing to hold that over the weekend to see if it's going to work out, because if it does, we've got a long way to new lows. And if it's a wave 2, which it might be, but not so sure about that, but if it is a wave 2 and I'm in it at the high with an 8 tick stop, and this thing is going to go down into a 3rd wave down, it will likely show its hand pretty quickly. If it is going to go into a 3rd wave down, then we'll likely go pretty hard down Sunday night. And, I'll likely take one off just after breaking through the bottom of these lows with about 35 or 45 ticks. But if it does go to new lows, we're talking well over 250, 350 ticks on that, on an 8-tick stop. So, you know, you don't have to be right very often to make money trading like that, which is what's so great about trading like this. You don't have to be right nearly as often. All right, guys, any questions? I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up there. I want to try to get through these Friday sessions a little bit more quickly, but I kind of wanted to cover as much as I could today. And you see the reason for this low that we had in the NASDAQ. It was this trend line here. Pretty nice. So I think this will be that final push up for the end of a really big third wave up. And then we'll be looking for some shorts. All right, any questions, anybody? I have LSU, Frackwells. Oh, John is saying that with fracking, the cost of production can be as low as $20 to $25 a barrel. Yeah, I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. Somebody was saying that in the room the other day. I don't remember what the price was they were saying, but yeah, I could see crude, you know, easily making it down to its previous low. You say that and people think you're crazy, but we were just there a year ago. So I could easily see it coming back down to hit this trend line from low to low. And that's at today, it's at 24.71. By next week or 3 or 4 weeks from now, it'll probably be closer to 24. Yeah, Brad is saying the VIX is at 1040. What's the all-time low? I guess that is about the all-time low, isn't it? Let's see if I can bring up a chart of that. We're pretty much done, guys, but I'm just gonna open up a chart of the VIX and see what it looks like here. What is the symbol for the VIX? I haven't looked at it in so long. Just VIX. CBOE, I don't know if I have that. I don't think I do. I could bring it up on TradingView though, I guess. Let's look at a weekly. Nope, I don't have it. I do have a TradingView account though. Let's see. $10.40, yeah. So we were as low as $9.50. It's pretty wild. Let's deal with a gap here. It's crazy. Let's see that. The 24th, April 24th. That was probably the push up right in here. Yeah, that was when we broke the prior highs there. Okay. Interesting. All right, I'm going to shut it down. I just wanted to have a quick look at the VIX there. So that's the volatility index, and yeah, I'd say we're due for a pretty serious swing high in the US equities. So, all right, guys, I'm going to call it a day. Yeah, Bobby, we'll just go ahead and redo that whole thing for you real quick. It is up on YouTube though, and it's actually live streaming to YouTube right now, but the quality on that is not looking very good, is it? It's horrible quality. But anyway, I'll send you a link to that, Bobby, and you can go ahead and watch it. It'll hopefully finish rendering when it does. Hopefully it'll be a little bit higher quality. All right, guys, I'm gonna head out. Everybody have a great weekend, and talk to you guys in the trading room on Monday. Yeah, sure. Let me send all of you a link. You can just go to my YouTube page. But there is the link. I just put it in the chat in Zoom. So I'll give you a minute to find the chat. And you can go back over it if you're just now joining us or you got in late. If that is the case, then oil will forever have a ceiling. What do you mean oil is going to forever have a ceiling? I missed that, Samir. I don't know what you mean. I'd say it's the buy of a lifetime, buy of the decade, because of the end of this pattern. Look at it. This is the big impulse move up. Runaway fifth wave like most commodities have, and then the big, massive, long, it's over 10 years, correction back down. So imagine the move back up. It's going to be pretty massive. You know, even if you don't try to hold for way up in here, you're talking at least 200 or 300% within just a couple of years, probably much more than that. So if we do come back down and make this fifth wave low, this is going to be just a picture perfect set of waves here. See what I mean? Did I get a chance to see your screen? Where did you post it? I haven't seen it, Gamini. Maybe Clint has. If you're asking about the volume, we're testing it. It's not ready yet. The update is not ready. All right, everybody have the link. Put it in hip chat as well. Oh, the quality is clear now. Okay, cool. Good deal. All right, everybody have a wonderful weekend. And yeah, Clint is saying that he hasn't received your email, Gamini. So make sure you send it to support@tradetheplan.com. Or you could just ask me right now, what's your question about the volume? You want to ask me now or just write? Okay, no problem. Yeah, the update will be ready pretty soon anyhow. We still have quite a bit of testing to do, but it's starting to come together. So, all right, everybody, have a great weekend. I'll talk to you guys in the trading room on Monday morning. All right, bye everyone.